I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values or feelings or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another Office Hours live stream. As you can see, the setup's a little different tonight. I've moved the mic stand. I like the idea of the mic stand being out of frame over here, but we'll see if it, I don't know, it's going to take some getting used to. I don't know. We'll play with it tonight and see. But I do like the idea of this big, clunky mic stand being out of the frame, so we shall see. As long as you guys can still hear me okay, as long as I'm still speaking into this closed microphone and all of that. But, yeah, thanks for showing up. Today is the birthday stream, as I've titled it. It's actually my birthday in a few days, but this is the closest stream to my actual birthday. Big Al says, volume low. Thank you. Okay, yeah. thanks for telling me that. I can fix that here. I know how to fix that. StreamYard changes all of the settings. It's so annoying. All right, now try that for me. See how that is. Tell me what you think there. Yeah, last time I had the problem, they put like echo cancellation on, and it sounded like I was in a fishbowl. You guys were saying, and this time I logged back in and they reset the settings. They turned that back on, even though I turned it off. So I don't know. How's the volume this time around? You can let me know. But yeah, so birthday in a few days. Doing the birthday stream today. Let me see here. Maybe the volume knob got bumped here. Try that. I just turned the gain way up. Final Fantasy fan said loud. Oh, too much, Private Eye says. Better but still lowish. Too much? What? You guys make no sense. I'm getting conflicting reports. You guys just messing with me? All right. Sound Engraver says it's better. Sound Engraver has very particular ears. So if it's too much, maybe you can just turn down your volume a little bit. Unless I'm like crackling and booming there or something. Staticky. Okay. I tried one more thing. I turned the reduce mic background noise on. See what that does. They said it sounds like a waterfall in the background. Yeah, that might be the reducing the background. Stupid StreamYard. Like, don't change people's settings and then have them have to do this every, beginning of a stream. It's really annoying. Much better. Okay. That seems to be the answer. My dear Sound Engraver will that's good. Okay. All right. So the lesson is no echo cancellation, but background noise reducer on. So that's the idea. Good. All right. Most excellent. Good. Thank you guys. We will, between you guys in the chat, my dear wife giving me some troubleshooting there, we'll make it work. Okay. So back to all the stuff I was saying. Am trying it differently here, frame wise. Hopefully this is going to work out. You guys can better see the Smurfs in the background. Some of you are pointing out. But good. So yeah, birthday stream. Just I figured it was a good catch-all time too, because we're going to finish up Dracula tonight. I'll talk a little bit more about the what I think the work is about, and actually the literary work itself a little bit. Last stream, and I divided it up into two videos. We were talking a lot more about the historical context and things from Bram Stoker's life and all of that. But we'll talk a little bit more about the book itself. And maybe if we get around to it, we'll talk about my recommendations for some of the film versions. So we'll kind of finish that up tonight. I've got a couple things I want to do first, but before I even get to that, I want to show you some awesome birthday presents I've received already. So pretty sweet stuff. And I figure we can also do it as a Q&A, because we've covered a lot of information the last few times. So before I do any of that, though, let me go ahead and welcome the chat. I believe Eldridge Fam was first here tonight. As he said, it was a first. So welcome to Eldridge Fan. Appreciate that. I think there's a super chat from you here in a second I'll get to. Ghost Planet Max Inc. Welcome. Of course, my dear sweet Sound Engraver. I got to put that up. A very happy birthday to my perfect Professor Geek. Thank you, my dear. Nathaniel's Lowsball, welcome. Oh, nice. Eldridge Fan saying you got the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't know, but I haven't done the audiobook of that, but I love the Count of Monte Cristo. I've got a really nice hardback edition that was printed in like the 20s. It's like got the sort of the cloth cover and everything. And someone gave it to me when I was in high school, and I loved the book so much. I was carrying it around in my high school backpack, because I just loved the book. I was reading it all over the place. And of course I was treating the wonderful antique printing not very well, but yeah, it's a good book. The Count is compared to a Byronic vampire by other characters, and he becomes a force of divine retribution. You're right. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. I really like Dumas' work there. Fizochizo Corner. Welcome. Slav, channel member, good to see you there. Samuel Proctor, great to see you there. And Andre Hernandez, welcome to see you there. Yeah, there's the Christopher Reeve documentary. All I saw is the one trailer for it, and it looks good. I'm a little concerned. I hope they don't turn the documentary into a propaganda piece trying to get you to support stem cell research or something like that. Um, there's a hint of maybe something that at the end. I hope that's just like part of the story and then moves on from that, because Christopher Reeve deserves a wonderful documentary made of him. But it's just really, I mean, honestly, wherever you fall on the political spectrum, wherever you fall on the issue of stem cell research, I would think it's incredibly disrespectful to take a person's life and the inspiration and the wonderful work they've done, and then in the end show that you were really just showing all of that to make a little political, point or something. So I hope it's not that. But I don't know anything about it. All I've seen is the one trailer, and does make you a bit misty there for the good old Christopher Reeve, the real deal Superman. Electric Barbarella, welcome to you. Ace Moick, great to see you there. Lots more people here. Darth Enigma, Leia Plus Size, Electric Barbarella, thank you. Good to see you there. I'm going to show some, I'm just going to say it out loud so I'll remember to do it this time. Electric Barbarella, remember, if you were here, if you were a regular Office Hours watcher, she had been talking about some of the big Frankenstein and some of the cool decorations that they put up, her and her husband put up. She actually did email me some pictures, so I'm going to show those in a few as well. So many more people. Too many people. I would love to just sit here and address each and every one of you individually, but then that would be the whole stream. So got to move on. Eldritch Fan for the super chat. Thank you so much. Happy birthday, Professor. It's alive. It's alive. What does he say? In the name of God, now I know how it feels to be God. Which is, of course, crazy blasphemous, but that's in character for him, right? That was actually cut. That line was cut from... honestly, Dracula. I mean, Frankenstein was put out in 1931 before the Hays Code, even came into effect for censorship in films. But a lot of places were cutting that line and some of the other things in these movies, like just different regions and whatnot. They wouldn't show the film unless they could cut this part and that part and this part. Thankfully, it was able to be restored. All right. Making sure I didn't miss anything there. AL, Michael Scimbati, welcome. Junk, welcome. And many, many more. Great to see everybody here. So, let's see. Pump down to the end of the comments so I can keep up with everything. I'll answer this question here before I get into this, because some people might not know. Press Geek said, why would stem cell research come up in the Reeve doc? Isn't that what I was researching to get more time? No, stem cell research, and maybe the sciences, maybe there's some different titles to it now or whatever, but I remember that Christopher Reeve's son, this was back during the one of the Obama elections. Christopher Reeve's son actually came out endorsing Obama because Obama would endorse stem cell research with stem cells harvested from aborted babies and stuff to try to hopefully help things like paralysis and so forth, which of course Christopher Reeve was paralyzed. So they made it a big political thing. Like I said, again, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, I just don't think that's a documentary honoring the man's life isn't the place to, in the end, wrap it all up as a political message or something like that. No, let's honor the man's life and leave it at that, please. So hopefully it'll be good. All right, so moving along. I got some early birthday presents. First off, my dear sweet sound engraver. Oh, she hooked me up, guys. This is awesome. I got the complete series of Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters. This is awesome. I've got the Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein Blu-ray. And of course, if you know anything about the movies, this was the last time that, you saw, well, this is the only time I think it's the only time you saw all... No, you did have the House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein movies. Okay. So it's the last time you saw all three classic monsters on screen together. By this time, Boris Karloff was no longer playing the monster, but you had Glenn Strange, who had taken over the role, a while ago. It's only the second time ever, and the second and last time that Bela Lugosi actually played Count Dracula. Universal wouldn't cast him in the role anymore. They got, oddly, John Carradine, who's a great actor, but he's no Bela Lugosi for Dracula. They got him to play it in the House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein movies. But This is the second and last time he played Dracula, which is great. He'd done some vampire movies that were very Count-ish, but this is the last time there. And then, of course, Lon Chaney Jr. coming back as the Wolfman. So wonderful, wonderful classic. If you're into monster movies, it's a comedy, but it's Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, which has all three of the main monsters there. Let's see, put this over here. Then the Blu-ray of Abbott and Costello meet The Invisible Man, another classic film in this series. And to my knowledge, there's no Blu-ray available for the other two Abbott and Costello Meet the Monsters movies. I couldn't find them anyway when I had been looking for them. And so she got me the DVD of all four. So this has the two there on DVD, but also it's got Dr. Jekyll and Abbott and Costello Meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. So I am psyched. Thank you, my dear love. That is a pretty sweet gift. Now I've got Big Al to thank. Big Al, man, he rocked it this year as well. You guys are gonna just like lose your mind when you see this. Look what Big Al got me for Christmas. How freaking sweet is that? Todd McFarlane Toys, Alice Cooper. I haven't even opened it yet. I'm gonna do it on screen here. This came out when the Paranormal album came out a handful of years ago. Excellent album too, by the way. Paranoid Personality is one of the greatest songs he's ever done. That man just keeps going. I mean, he's just still putting out albums today. He's awesome. You know, The Road was excellent. Freaking love Al. You guys, if you watch my channel for any length of time, you know how much I dearly love Alice Cooper. He's one of my personal heroes. He's just freaking amazing. Love his music. Love all the comics and movies and everything that he's done. So we're going to open this and check it out. This is pretty sweet. You know, sometimes collectors will keep these things and not open them. Like, no, I want to open and display it. You know, this is pretty sweet. It's got the boa constrictor for his neck there and everything. Ooh, and it's got the little collectible card there, which is pretty awesome. That is from, what album is that from? I forgot this look. The album this look was from. Is it Diamonds? I don't know. All right. Of course, it needs some scissors. Oh, there we go. I popped it. All right, it's gonna be loud and crinkly here because you guys know this material. So, you know, if it's gonna bother your ears, you might want to just turn down the the volume for a second because here we go. Crinkle, crinkle. All right, that wasn't so bad. And I got to get the mic stand up. Of course, it's taped. Sweet. Set that down there. Oh, forgot the boa. And it is a boa. That's what he uses. He said pythons are too dangerous. Pythons will lash out at you, but boa constrictors are usually nice and mild, and that's what he's always used. Plus, it's fitting because, you know, he wears the snake as a boa, you know. So this is pretty sweet. I agree, Nathaniel's Lowest Ball. That satisfying sound of unboxing an action figure. Oh, shoot. Okay. I may have sort of kind of broke the mic stand, but it's fixable. Where'd it go? It's got this part it has to pop in there. All right, so I'm going to do that more gently later. I can fix that mic stand. It's not broken for good. I just need to snap that part back on there. So we'll do the mic stand bit later. Can't break this awesome gift. Sorry, Al. I'm being careful. How to get this thing in here? There we go. There's the stand. So yeah, I'll have the mic in his hand as soon as I fix that up. There's the boa. There he is. Check that out. That's pretty sweet detail too. I mean, that really looks like Alice Cooper. I mean, that's his face. That's, you know, the makeup, the snake there. That's awesome. Nice studded jacket. That is pretty freaking sweet. So that will be proudly displayed. I'll display it right now. Put him in front of Dracula. It's a little smaller. There we go. So, thank you. Where did that piece go? I just want to find that real quick. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, so that's fixable. I can fix that. It's all good. Let's see. It is pretty sweet. It's pretty impressive. You guys like it? Yeah, the mic drop. At least he can do a mic drop. Yeah, exactly. Andre Hernandez said, thoughts on Alice Cooper's appearance in Wayne's World? Dude, epic performance there of Feed My Frankenstein, and that wonderful. You can't be an Alice Cooper fan and not like that appearance. So you come to Milwaukee often? He's talking about Milwaukee. He's like, I think the most interesting thing about Milwaukee is it's the only, what does he say, the state to ever elect 2 socialist mayors. Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land. So thank you there. Oh, thank you there, Al. Very much appreciated there. Yes, we're not worthy. Not worthy. And thank you, my dear sweet sound engraver. I'm going to be spending lots of time watching those awesome films. So yeah, wanted to show off that first because I got some pretty sweet gifts. All right. Next up, let me go ahead and let's just finish up our Dracula talk a little bit. Speaking of gifts, this is actually a really nice, some of you might have this, leather-bound edition of Dracula, which was given to me by the great fan man some years ago for either a birthday or a Christmas. He inscribed it there for me. So thank you to Fan Man for a belated thank you for a sweet gift there too as well. But this is the one that I look at. I agree, Sound Engraver. My dear sweet Sound Engraver. Yes, Alice Cooper needs to be on Scooby-Doo. I know Scooby-Doo has done. They've done one with Kiss. They've done one with. I mean, Scooby-Doo can do something with the Mamas and Papas or Mama Cast, and they darn well need to do a crossover with Alice Cooper. Darn it. Yeah, seriously, do that now. All right. Where was it? Oh, yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about Dracula. Like I said, last time we went through the historical context for it, the literary context for it at the time, and we talked about the things from Stoker's life and whatnot. But the first thing I'll say about the book is I want to reiterate something that I mentioned a little bit last time, but I want to go a little farther with it. As I said, Dracula is an epistolary novel, which means that it's told through letters, epistle, letter. It's told through diary entries, mostly diary entries, newspaper clippings. Dr. Seward records, on his phonograph, his diary entries, letters written back to each other, travel log, of Jonathan Harker's travel log and so forth. And at some point in the story, you find out how all these disparate, items came to be gathered here in this one book, because as our heroes are going after Dracula, Mina Harker takes on the duty of compiling everything. She's going to type everything up, everybody's handwritten journals, Dr. Seward's audio, diaries there with the phonograph, and she types it all up and gives it this big transcript here. So the novel is very concerned with documentation. Even the characters themselves are concerned. They'll always say, I'm writing this on a typewriter. Typewriters have been invented at that point, or, I'm recording this, or this is transcribed from this, or here's a news clipping from this, dated this. It's concerned with documenting the story. It's concerned with writing. Mina talks about learning shorthand, and shorthand pops up again and again. The Count can't read shorthand. Mina wants to learn shorthand so she can, take letters and whatnot from Jonathan. And so different things are written in different languages. So that it's one of the themes in the novel. Then if it keeps popping up over and over and over again, it's a theme of the novel, this idea of documentation, of compiling the story, making sense out of all of these different sources of information. And I think if you put that in the greater context of the story, which is good versus evil, trying to overcome this great evil, because Dracula is such an overwhelming foe. I mean, if you've never seen a movie or read the book before, your first time, you can't help but to think a little bit like, man, how are they ever going to take out this guy? He's just, he's so powerful. And I think that the moral of the story, so to speak, at least in this term of this theme, is the importance. The book shows the importance of putting the information or putting the events in our lives in a linear narrative. And that's important. Psychologists will even tell you today. It's really important to understand sort of the story of your life. You need to process the things you've been through in order to know where you're going. You need to have a plan and know where you're going. You need to kind of see the trajectory of your life. It's just natural human nature to see ourselves as the main character, the heroes of our own story. And you can take that too far to the point where you're, a narcissist and don't care about the others in your life. But, it is basic human nature to see yourself as the hero of your own story. Jordan Peterson has the great programs, the past authoring or future authoring programs, which are designed, which even people who disagree with him politically still say, yeah, this is a good thing that one can do to just sort of make sense out of your life, figure out what you've been through, what you can learn from it. And it's the idea of it. I haven't done it myself, but from hearing him talk about it, the idea is that it forces you to put your life in sort of a narrative story. And so it's important to do that, and especially in the sense of, okay, fighting evil, like the novel here. We face Draculas in our lives all the time. Insurmountable odds, evils that come about, whether in the guise of other people or just forces, allied against us or whatever it is in your life, maybe addictions or something like that. But we face those overwhelming odds all the time, and the more we can kind of see ourselves and make sure that we can make use of all the things that have happened to us or that are happening to us, we need to kind of see it in that sort of narrative, document it, So I think that's a really cool lesson of the book, and it's in there. Do have a super chat here. Don't want to miss that from Eldridge Fan again. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, you put in a comment about this. Watched Gothic on Tubi. Then the Byron and Shelley opening in The Bride Frankenstein. Yeah, very tame compared to Gothic. Oh yeah. Sorry, I wanted to chat in before Maine. Yeah, no, that's right. I'm glad that you caught that Gothic is on Tubi. I didn't know that, but it's a trippy film. So Doc Ock plays Lord Byron, if you didn't catch that. So you can go check that out for free on Tubi, apparently. All right, let's see. The other thing I wanted to talk about this is, actually, I see this comment and I got to mention this. Andre Hernandez says, thanks to Prof, I watched the Van Helsing movie starring Wolverine. Yeah, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, Van Helsing. Feel like that movie should have gotten more sequels. I liked it. A lot of people thought it was so cheesy or whatever when it came out. That movie is done, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but the director for the Mummy movies, the Mummy reboot movies with Brendan Fraser. In fact, that's one of the reasons why he didn't go do the third Mummy movie, because he was wanting to do Van Helsing. So he had already brought back the classic monster, the Mummy, but brought it back as a 90s action adventure film. And it was great. It was wonderful. Those Mummy movies are awesome. They're so much fun. Stephen Sommers. Thank you, guys. I knew somebody in the chat would say it. Stephen Sommers. So they're great. And he wanted to try to do that for the other classic Universal monster movies as well. Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Jekyll and Hyde even makes an appearance, even though he was a Paramount film. But I thought it was great. It casts Van Helsing as the action hero. Yes, it's cheesy here and there, but it's not. The film's not trying to be anything more than what it is. It's trying to be a good, fun little action adventure, and it's right on. It's right in the theme or in the same spirit of the Mummy. So I think it's great, and I'm kind of bummed that it didn't get more. But it does have. If you haven't watched it, was it Samuel or Andre Hernandez said that? If you haven't watched, there's an animated prequel film to Van Helsing, which tells the story of Van Helsing going after Jekyll and Hyde. Because remember, at the beginning of the movie, he faces down with Jekyll and Hyde, and Hyde says, or he says, I missed you in London, because he's traced him to Paris there. It's at the very beginning of the film. There's no spoiler. But he's traced Hyde to Paris, and he says, I missed you in London. And Hyde's like, no, you didn't. And he shows up his arm, and there's like a bullet hole through it or whatever. So there's an animated film, a prequel, that tells the story of that, which is quite well done, actually. A little Lovecraftian, actually. It gets, by the end of it. It's pretty interesting, pretty good. So, yeah, that's an awesome film, and we might talk about that. The other thing I want to talk about with Dracula, though, is I mentioned the other day that it's a very Catholic novel. It's definitely a very Christian novel in terms, and what I mean by that is good versus evil. This is very much God versus the devil. I mean, our heroes are on the side of God,
And I say that it's a very Catholic novel, and somebody said in the comments, and it was a nice comment, but they were like, I think that's kind of a Catholic interpretation. Bro, I'm not even interpreting. I'm just reading what's in the book. So I want to read you some portions here. Pardon me, I get my light here so I can read. Okay, so Jonathan Harker is heading towards Castle Dracula in the beginning, and these peasants are all around him. And these peasants are super Catholic. They're doing the sign of the cross, and everything. And this woman, then she rose and dried her eyes, and taking a crucifix from her neck, offered it to me. I did not know what to do, for as an English churchman, I had been taught to regard such things as in some measure idolatrous, and yet it seemed so ungracious to refuse an old lady meaning so well, and in such a state of mind. She saw, I suppose, the doubt on my face, for she put the rosary around my neck and said, "For your mother's sake," and went out of the room. All right, for your mother's sake, obviously for his own mother's, sake, to, so that her son wouldn't die or whatever. But there's also there's a lot of Virgin Mary imaging in the book, especially towards the end with Mina Harker and how all these men owe her their devotion and so forth, and how she is this wise, sort of matriarch kind of, even to the men who aren't her husband, obviously. There's another, I got it marked here with a book. All right, so then here, when he's actually in Dracula's castle, Harker's in Dracula's castle, and the Count himself has been driven back a little bit by this rosary around his neck, by the crucifix and the rosary around his neck. Certainly the brides. Then Harker's reflecting on this crucifix, and he says, "What meant the giving of the crucifix of the good woman who hung the crucifix around my neck?" Oh, no, he said, "Bless that good woman who hung the crucifix around my neck, for it is a comfort and a strength to me whenever I touch it. It is odd that a thing which I have been taught to regard with disfavor and as idolatrous should be in a time of loneliness and trouble be of help. Is it that there is something in the essence of the thing itself, or that it is a medium, a tangible help in conveying memories of sympathy and comfort? Sometime, if it may be, I must examine this matter and try to make up my mind about it." So you've got the blessed crucifix, the rosary does work at repelling this evil, and this Anglican who's been taught that those images are idolatrous, he's been taught that all of his life, is realizing there's something to this. This is in the book. I'm not even interpreting it. I'm just reading it. What's there. Let's see, I've got another spot here. Yeah. This is another spot when, let's see, where am I at here? When we meet Van Helsing is a Dutchman who is, Dr. Seward's old professor. He's a metaphysician, a physician, an expert in all of these different kinds of diseases and whatnot. And he's also a Catholic. And you'll see this from here. But first I want to read Dr. Seward's explanation or description of Van Helsing when he's first talking about him. It says, "He is seemingly an arbitrary man, but this is because he knows what he is talking about better than anyone else. He is a philosopher and a metaphysician and one of the most advanced scientists of his day. And he has, I believe, an absolutely open mind. This with an iron nerve, a temper of ice, brook an indomitable resolution, self-command, and a toleration exalted from virtues to blessings, and the kindest and truest heart that beats." So virtuous, kindness, truest. These form his equipment for the noble work that he is doing for mankind. Work both in theory and in practice, for his views are as wide as his all-embracing sympathy. So we hear that, information about Van Helsing much later when I'll try not to give away too much for people because I know my dear sound engraver hasn't read the novel yet, but they're going after a vampire. Let me just say that much. And they ask him, what is he doing? He takes this wafer out of his bag, this bread, which we know is the consecrated host, and he starts mixing it up in like a putty, and he starts sealing it around the edges of the tomb because he doesn't want this vampire to be able to escape back into the tomb. And they say, what are you doing? He says, "I'm closing the tomb, this light, so that the undead may not enter." And what is that stuff that you're going to do with it? Asked Quincy. Great Scott, is this a game? It is. What is this that you are using? This time the question came from Arthur. Van Helsing reverently lifted his hat as he answered. The host, which is the Catholic word for, the host, the bread, the consecrated bread that becomes the blood of Christ, or the body of Christ. I brought it from Amsterdam. I have an indulgence, he says. Now, that's not quite the right word of it. I think that's Stoker misunderstanding Catholicism a little bit. In this fictional universe, if you could actually fathom a priest giving you some of the consecrated host, it'd probably be a dispensation would be the better word. But he says, I have an indulgence. It was an answer that appalled the most skeptical of us. And we felt individually that in the presence of such an earnest purpose as the professor's, a purpose which could thus use the to him most sacred of things, it was impossible to distrust. So the idea that they know what a big deal this is. They know he's a Catholic. They know that this is the most sacred thing in the world to him, the consecrated host, the body of Christ, and to use it in this matter. And it works. It works. It repels the evil. So I'm not trying to make a theological argument here. I'm just trying to point out this is just a literary analysis of the book. The book is a very Catholic book. And what I mean by that is that I don't mean that it's like it's trying to teach you catechesis. I mean that in the universe of Dracula, in the fictional universe of Dracula, at least, Catholicism is true. The consecrated host isn't just a symbol. It isn't just a random piece of bread. It's the body of Christ that repels these evils. So, I mean, that's in there. And even if you're not Catholic, you can still 100% appreciate the good versus evil in the book. The Christianity good versus evil, that's just in the book. I know, of course, a lot of Dracula incarnations or movies, adaptations, and so forth have tried to get away from that aspect, which I think is a mistake. But, Dracula's been adapted so many times and for every different flavor of whoever that, they've done it plenty where, oh, the crucifixes, that's a superstitious, whatever, but it's in the novel there, definitely. Alec Purdue, thank you very much for the birthday super chat there. Said happy belated birthday. Gifts coming in late. Hey, no, you don't have to send me anything, man, but appreciate you being here. Eldridge fan for 199 said, I wish they found Dracula's journal and added it in. That would be interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting. There is a I think I got one more super chat. Nathaniel Lovell, thank you so much. And I'll come back to your comment there, Eldridge fan. For $9.99, appreciate that. You said, I read the novel a few years ago, listened to the Dracula versions of Swan Lake before starting it, and listened to Leopold Stokowski's Toccata and Fugue in D minor after closing the book. Felt great. Yeah, and a lot of those pieces of music were played for the old Universal monster movies because back then they didn't have a score for films yet. There wasn't somebody composing a score for films, so they would use classical pieces and to open the films and whatnot. So yeah, that's great. Thanks for telling me that. That's a good experience. There is some of you might have read it. I haven't read it yet. I need to get to it. I think I might do it this year. But Dacre Stoker, who I think is Bram Stoker's nephew, if I'm remembering that correctly, has put out, supposedly based on the notes that Bram Stoker left behind, has put out a sequel to the book Dracula. And it deals with Mina and Jonathan's son growing up. I think Dr. Seward is kind of like the older Van Helsing type character in this one at this point. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard mixed reviews on it, but I will read it and we'll see. So yeah. I mean, we can sit here and talk about the novel all day long. Courses are taught on it, but I think I'll just stop there because we want to talk about a lot of different things. But it's a classic. It's one of my top 5 favorite novels ever. It's right up there with Something Wicked This Way Comes and what's the other top 3rd novel I had? I didn't mind the other day. It's very similar to this kind of thing. I'll think of it as soon as the stream's over. But it's a great novel. It's a literary masterpiece. In all of these literary works we've been talking about thus far, the 3 sort of seminal works of literature from which these iconic monster archetypes come, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde, or Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and Bram Stoker's Dracula here. It's pretty fascinating. Now, where we're going to go from here, I haven't quite decided yet. I want to talk about The Werewolf of Paris by Guy Endore, because I want to talk about how the idea of the Wolfman is drawn out from both Dracula and Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to become that third monster archetype. Because if you think about the three most iconic monster archetypes, it's Dracula, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman. And the Wolfman definitely had its genesis in Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It certainly had its parts of its genesis in Dracula as well, because Dracula is a werewolf. He's a vampire, but Stoker's looking at all of these old stories and whatnot, and the werewolf wasn't really so much a distinct being on his own in the classic mythical folklore tales. Even in like the werewolf trials of the day, he was seen as a witch, or she was seen as a witch, someone who could deal with the devil to transform themselves into this beast. So even though it was a werewolf trials, it was also sort of a demonic, like, deal with the devil, witchcraft kind of thing going on. Dracula is talked about in the novel is described as his eyebrows meeting. There's like a bridge of hair in the middle that join his eyebrows. That was supposed to be a telltale sign of a werewolf back in the day. Hairy palms was supposed to be a sign of a werewolf, and the Dracula novel goes to great detail to make sure that he's got a tuft of hair on his palms. And in the day, of course, people don't walk around with actual hair on their palms, but the idea was that, a werewolf would really, if they had hair on their palms, they would shave it so they'd give themselves away as a werewolf, so you would feel people's palms to see if they were rough or not, and that was supposed to be a telling sign of a werewolf. So it's got its genesis a little bit. The Wolfman as we know it does have its genesis a bit from Dracula and the old folk tales that it draws it from, but certainly the duality of man that we think of, definitely by the time we get to the Wolfman in 1941 with Lon Chaney Jr., it's very much comes from the duality of man of Jekyll and Hyde as well. The idea that we have two of these natures within us. So that's going to be a lot to say. We're going to talk a lot more about that. And Guy Endor's Werewolf of Paris could give us a way into that, because a lot of literary scholars, myself included, I really feel like Werewolf of Paris is to werewolf mythology what Dracula is to vampire mythology. Some people would disagree, and that's fine, but I think it's a seminal work. It's an important work to cover if you're talking about the archetypes of monsters. But I mean, that was published in the 20s, and I really do want to get to the Universal monster movies as well, or at least the first wave of them, the 1931, there, and Paramount's, of course, Jekyll and Hyde with Friedrich March, because that really sort of solidified and pushed these archetypes into popular culture, popular 20th century Hollywood, influenced culture, far more than the novel has. I mean, not far more than the novel has, but, it reaches people that aren't going to read the novel, and has put it in the public consciousness in a visual way, So we'll definitely talk about some of that too, just deciding the right order that we're going to go in. Matthew Flynn, thank you so much for the super chat there. Is Christopher Lee the most iconic Dracula? There's a reason George cast him as Count Dooku. Christopher Lee is epic. He is epic, and we are definitely going to talk about... Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of my favorite adaptations of Dracula. And I'm going to talk about the adaptations of the story, adaptations of Bram Stoker's novel. So I'm fudging it a little bit because first I'm going to get to Christopher Lee. But first I'm going to, of course, say Bela Lugosi's, the original Todd Browning film of 1931, Dracula. Now, Universal Studios didn't have a lot of money at the time. The Depression had just hit, this is 1931. So originally they were wanting to do a big historical drama, big budget, kind of something like Lon Chaney Sr. had done with the Hunchback of Notre Dame in the 20s. But they didn't have the money, so they ended up writing the script and basing it off a play version, Hamilton Dean's play version of Dracula, which is still good, but it obviously condenses this. I mean, Dracula is a sweeping novel that goes across Europe, all these different settings and whatnot. And if you're going to adapt that for the stage, you obviously need to cut a lot of it and condense a lot of it and put some unity of place, unity of time, and so forth that you can't do and that the novel's not restricted to. So the play does a good job, good as job as any as you could do for that. And the Dracula film, Todd Browning's 1931 Dracula film, was based on that play. Now, Todd Browning was a silent film director. I think, was this his first talkie or maybe his second talkie, if I forget correctly, or if I remember correctly. But there are some issues with the movie Dracula, 1931's Dracula, just from an artistic perspective. It gets far less credit than it deserves. It's still a wonderful film, but it had some issues. There was, of course, famously a Spanish version of the film being made at the same time because talkies were new, and suddenly, they used to be able to market their films, their silent films, to the Spanish-speaking audience, to the English or whatever, and now they're doing talkies where language is going to be a barrier. So for a while there, they were actually shooting Spanish versions of the film at the same time they were shooting an English version. So the Spanish cast would come in during the nighttime on the same set that Dracula was being shot on, and they would shoot their version of the movie, and kind of intent on making their film the better version. So they would look at the dailies and everything shot by Todd Browning, and they would really try and do some really sweeping camera work. And it is technically, from a story perspective and from just a filmmaking perspective, the Spanish version is a much better film. But here's what the Spanish version of the film doesn't have. It doesn't have Bela Lugosi. It doesn't have Edward Sloan or Jonathan Sloan. Sloan, the guy who plays Van Helsing. And it doesn't have Dwight Fry, who plays Renfield. Those three performances, even if you hate everything about the 1931 Dracula movie, which no one does, but even if you did, you'd sit down and watch it just for Bela Lugosi's performance alone. Bela Lugosi, one performance, one film playing this character, and he defined that role for a century to come. I mean, yes, we've got some wonderful, we're going to talk about Christopher Lee, we're going to talk about some other portrayals, but I mean, Bela Lugosi, without Bela Lugosi, you'd have no Christopher Lee. And that accent, I bid you welcome. That's where we get that from. That's Dracula. It's brilliant. It's wonderful in so many ways, and he was an amazing actor. Of course, Sloan is Van Helsing. The sparks that fly when the two of them are kind of standing off, and of course Dwight Fry. I mean, what can you say about Dwight Fry? Is Renfield, and he would go on to play a lot of roles like that, Frankenstein and so forth. Brilliant actor. So they just light up the screen, and it's 100%. If you haven't seen any Dracula movie ever, that's where you start. You start at the 1931 Dracula. It's epic, it's classic, it's iconic. Next, believe it or not, I would jump all the way. And again, I'm talking about adaptations of the story, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the novel. Of course, Dracula, the character, shows up all over the place, in different types of stories and whatnot. But I will point out, as many of you are, saying that you love Christopher Lee, Horror of Dracula, 1958, Hammer Films in Britain got the rights from Universal to remake those Universal films. As long as they totally rewrote the scripts, kind of did their own thing, so they weren't competing with Universal's classics, the monsters had to look differently and so forth. And the deal was that Universal would distribute those films in America. And Christopher Lee is, of course, where we get him as Dracula. We get Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. That duo is absolutely phenomenal. Christopher Lee brings a lot to his Dracula. He doesn't do the accent. All right, so he's just an Englishman like anybody else. And this is kind of one of the weird things about the 1958 or the Hammer horror films. It's like it's supposedly set in Germany, not really Transylvania. It's set in Germany and Romania, or not, Germany and I forgot the bordering country there where they've got Dracula's castle. But they're all Englishmen, with English accents and everything. But the thing about Christopher Lee's Dracula is he brought a real bestial nature to the character, which is just fascinating because Bela Lugosi took the cue from Hamilton Dean's play where Dracula is the gentleman. When you see him, he's in the tuxedo, he's going to the opera at nighttime. He's in the coat and tails and he's the gentleman. And acts every bit as much of it, the slick back hair and he's the gentleman of the day. And he does, he's Lucy Westenra is rather taken with him. But Christopher Lee's Dracula is a beast. the bloodshot eyes, the contacts, the red eyes, the blood. It's the first time you actually see blood, because you don't see blood in the 1931 film, but you see the blood and the fangs. That's the first movie that really showed us that in Dracula. And it was great. You also see in Dracula, there's a wonderful quote. Let me see if I can find this quote that Christopher Lee talks about, because it's the first time that we really see women who Dracula, preys upon as just utterly in his power, and even sort of, they're hypnotized by him. They're not themselves, but there's a real thrill, like the real erotic thrill that this man is like, you can see it in their eyes. It's like they want this, and again, it's not them, it's they're being victimized, and they're, he's got that sort of hypnotic, appeal on them, or hold on them. Where is the, quote here? Let me see if I can, okay. Just one second. It's such a good quote by Christopher Lee. I just want to find it real quick and give it. Okay, so Lee says this. He said Christopher Lee says he had also to have an erotic element about him, and not because he sank his teeth into women. It's a mysterious matter and has something to do with the physical appeal of the person who's draining your life. It's like being a sexual blood donor. Women are attracted to men for any of 100 reasons. One of them is a response to the demand to give oneself. And what greater evidence of giving is there than your blood flowing literally from your own bloodstream? It's the complete abandonment of woman to the power of a man. And that's just going to make feminists but that's the appeal. The woman liking the bad boy, the woman liking a little bit of domination. I'm not saying, beaten or abused, but there is sort of that appeal somewhere. And you see that with Dracula to the most dangerous, extent. And Lee got that in the character, and he put that forth. The 1958 horror Dracula movie is also wonderful in that it really does just tell a concise story. A lot of these Dracula adaptations, especially when you get to like the 1970 Count Dracula, which also had Lee in it but didn't use him very well. Then there's the 1977 BBC one, and a lot of people's like, this one is true to the novel. It's true to the novel. I would say, what's true to the novel? You're working in a different medium. A film, you simply can't. If you do everything that's in the book in a film, it's going to be boring, because the medium of film, you can't do the same thing. It needs to be adapted a little bit, at least somewhat. It needs to be adapted. And I'm more of the mindset, be true to the spirit of the story if you're making a film adaptation, rather than every little minute detail. And while Horror of Dracula could have been a lot truer to the story, sure, I think it was absolutely true to the spirit of it. Made a lot of sweeping changes, but it also gave us Van Helsing as the swashbuckling hero. I mean, Peter Cushing really brings that to the character. I mean, at the end of the movie, ripping the curtain down and the sun blowing in, and he grabs these candlesticks and he makes a cross out of them. And he even twists it and shashunk, I mean, he's pretty awesome. So yeah. Christopher Lee is Dracula, 1958's Horror of Dracula. That's the next one I would go to. And then the last recommendation I'll give, there are a lot of different wonderful Dracula iterations, and it takes a lot for me to not like one completely. Of course, some of the new ones that are trying to go woke with it or whatever, yeah, I don't even worry about those. But Francis Ford Coppola's 92 Bram Stoker's Dracula, as he called it, that gets way too much hate, in my opinion. I love that movie. I really do. It does put the whole love story aspect with the Count. I understand why they do that. It wasn't the first film to do that either. Richard Matheson was actually the first one to write that into a script for the Jack Palance, Dan Curtis Dracula film. But it, that's a mistake overall. It works for the Coppola film, though. A lot of people say Keanu Reeves is just so horrible in that. I don't think he's horrible. His accent's a little off, but that's how I kind of see Harker. Jonathan Harker needs to be sort of the stodgy representation of the British, upstanding man, But the thing that I really love about Bram Stoker's Dracula film, many things I love about it, is that it's the only Dracula film, it's the only adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula to that point, which actually had all of the main characters. We have Jonathan Harker, we have Arthur Holmwood, we have Quincy Morris, we have Dr. John Seward, we have Van Helsing. So many other iterations of Dracula try to just combine some of those characters. Well, which I get. It's a lot of different characters. They think, oh, that's too many. The audience will have trouble keeping track. So let's combine this or conflate these two characters and this. You've got some of them, Lucy's marrying Quincy instead of Arthur. It's weird. It gets really weird. But I think you need those three suitors to Lucy. You need Arthur, Quincy, and Dr. Seward to be proposing to Lucy, because they mirror Dracula's three brides. There's the 3 and 3, the three suitors. There's that mirror image there. And then when Jonathan and Mina come into it, they're an actual married couple. And then you've got the mentor frontiersman there, Van Helsing. It's a wonderful team. It's a wonderful ensemble of heroes that you're rooting for as they go after Dracula, and each one brings their own unique gifts and unique, abilities to the team, and it's wonderful. It's a great fellowship. Going, it is a fellowship. It's wonderful. It's just really good. So yeah, those are my 3 recommendations for Dracula. It's not that I don't like any of the other ones. I like a lot of the other ones, but the 3 that I just think you can't go wrong on are, of course, the 1931 Bela Lugosi, Todd Browning's Dracula. The 1958 Horror of Dracula, Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, can't go wrong. And then Francis Ford Coppola's wonderful. Gary Oldman gets the character of Dracula more than any other. I think he gets it to where when Jonathan Harker knocks on that castle door, the castle door opens, Dracula is supposed to freak you out. And Bela Lugosi did it, but too many other Dracula iterations just show him as the gentleman undercover at that point. When no, he's supposed to be, creepy. And of course he gets younger, as his trip on the Demeter goes, as he's feeding off all of the life of these sailors and whatnot. And Gary Oldman's portrayal was wonderful in that. Of course, you can't ask for a better portrayal or casting of Van Helsing than Anthony Hopkins. Winona Ryder, of course, is wonderful. It's got a great cast. So anyway, those are the 3 that I think are wonderful, epic. Yeah, I agree. Melanie said, do you think the Coppola's Dracula movie is a masterpiece, as is the old Lugosi, the early Lee movies? Yeah, I agree with you there. Definitely. All right, let me pop in here. Imaginative Hobbyist says, The Simpsons did a pretty hilarious spoof on Coppola's Dracula for a Treehouse of Horror segment. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. I lose it every time Homer says Pennsylvania like it's Transylvania. That's funny. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, so Samuel Partridge didn't enjoy the Coppola. It has its critics, that's for sure. Andre Hernandez, Dracula Untold. I've yet to see Dracula Untold. I have it. I need to watch it. So that's coming up here. I'll probably watch that this season as well. All right, got a couple super chats here that I want to catch before I forget them. Let me see, make sure I didn't miss any others before. All right, so that was Matthew Flynn's, and then I had a super chat from my dear Sound Engraver saying, doesn't make me it only makes me nauseous. Yeah, you mean the Dracula thing? Coming after the woman, yeah. Eldritch fan said, Karloff's Mummy is greater than Lugosi's Dracula? I personally, I couldn't compare the two. There's such two different characters. Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, the Mummy's wonderful. The Mummy's epic. We haven't really talked about the Mummy or Creature Black Lagoon. Maybe we'll get to those when we get to the Universal Monster movies. I really couldn't compare the two, but I would understand why one person would think this was better than that one or whatever. Definitely, they're so different for me. I don't know. I really couldn't compare them. Leia Plus Size says, Professor Geek, I have to ask, Prof, how about Dracula in Marvel Comics? Blade, and yes, you know me, Captain America versus Dracula. Steve Rogers being the good, facing Dracula evil. I've never read Captain America Faces Dracula. I have read the Horror of Dracula, or not Horror of Dracula, Tomb of Dracula, the omnibus that I got, which is wonderful. But I've never read the Captain America facing off against Dracula. I've got to check that out. That sounds really, really cool. I'd be interested in looking at that. I'll have to look that up and see where that is, see if I can get my hands on it. Before I forget, though, I do want to show this, show these images, these Halloween decorations, which are so great, because now is the season, right? Now is the season. It's time for decorating. September's tomorrow. As far as I'm concerned, I would decorate in August if Sound Engraver would let me. But September is our least compromise, So going to decorate on my birthday this week. Yeah, thank you, Mr. D-Man. Appreciate that. Yeah, going to decorate on my birthday this week, and it's going to be good. Yeah, Darth Enigma, Batman versus Dracula, the animated film is really great. That is epic. It's so good. People need to talk about that more. It's really, really fun. But let me see. Present. I don't want to share screen. I want to... They changed this up. Is it slide? No, it's not slides. Let's see. Okay, screen. Windows, what I want, and that's what I want. Okay. So these are some images from Electric Barbarella's Dracula here, our Halloween decorations. This is can't quite read that there, but the ghosts, the head holding the head. It looks like daytime there. I mean, you can tell they put a lot of time and energy into that. That's pretty sweet. That's cool. It reminds me, I'll have to tell you about this house that Sound Engraver and I saw on our honeymoon too. But I love the bat hanging upside down, Dracula hanging upside down. That is sweet. That's good. Electric Barbarella there and her husband. She said I could show that, so I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be. Yeah, there's the nighttime one with the fog and this. Oh, that is so cool, and the lights. That would be sweet. I mean, a picture can never do that kind of thing justice. There's Here Lies Beetlejuice. There's the tombstone for Beetlejuice, which is so cool. I love that. Yeah, that would be a house I would definitely be strolling past. That's awesome. The cauldron there. These are sweet. These are really sweet. Is that a mummy back there? That's awesome. So yeah, very well done. That's Electric Barbarella there. You said a month of work. I don't doubt it. You'll have to send a pic of you said the 6-foot Frankenstein or whatever, or did you say 12 feet? I forget the number, but that's sweet. Well done. Good job. The house, when Sound Engraver and I were on our honeymoon, we got married last October. So, it was shortly before Halloween there. And we stayed on our honeymoon at this Airbnb, which was a little bit in a rural area. It wasn't like, downtown or anything like that. We just kind of wanted to be away and, in a quiet area anyway. So it was like this old rural road. And we wanted to walk. We wanted to take a walk because, we usually walk during the day, and it was a nice paved road and everything. Old rural road, but we walked anyways, this old country road. So we're walking trying to get like a mile in or whatever past the little Airbnb that we're staying at. And we come across this dark corner of the road, and it's a wooded road too. All the houses, it's all in woods. And there's this house in this dark corner of the road, in this old country road. And everywhere on the lawn were nothing but baby dolls. Just like baby dolls, like the eyes cut out, or just, creepily posed. They were posed in all these kind of ways and whatever. And I took some pictures. I'll have to put the pictures on the computer and share them with you next stream. It was the creepiest thing to even walk past. There were no cars. There was nobody outside. It was a little unnerving to even walk past all these dolls. I was like, I can just imagine one of the heads turning and watching us or something like that. And we were thinking, we hope this is Halloween decorations and not just, how they decorate their lawn, because it was freaky. She was a little creeped out too. We went ahead and turned around and walked back to the Airbnb at that point. It was, it was something. All right, I'm going to catch a few more comments here. I do appreciate you guys hanging out with me for the birthday stream. It's a lot of fun, and it's been fun. We talked a little bit more about Dracula. We talked some movies. We answered some questions. I want to answer a few more questions here before we wrap it up for the night. But yeah, thank you to Electric Barbarella for sending in those pictures, because those are awesome. Let's see. Eldridge fan said Dracula dead and loving it. Yeah. Best Dracula is Leslie Nielsen, and best Van Helsing is Mel Brooks. Yeah, that was Mel Brooks's. He finally got to do Dracula. He wanted to do Dracula ever since he did Young Frankenstein, and he finally got to do Dracula, and it's a really funny movie. And Leslie Nielsen's great, and of course they're very much parodying Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula because that was the most recent one in cultural memory at that point. Yeah, it was good. Oh, interesting. Mention of Hobby says Liam Neeson is said to have campaigned for Van Helsing in Coppola's version. I did not know that, but was turned down due to his age. Yeah, because he would have been younger at that point. Do you think he'd be good if allowed the chance now? Maybe. I hadn't thought about him, but yeah, I think he could do it. As long as he has the Dutch accent. You've got to have the Dutch accent because it's very important. Some of the Van Helsings, Peter Cushing was just an Englishman, and that's fine. But a lot of the Van Helsings aren't foreign, and they need to be foreign to our main characters because Van Helsing is a frontiersman. He's supposed to come from another culture with this knowledge, just as Quincy Morris is the American coming from another culture as the swashbuckling, he's the one that actually sinks the Bowie knife, and so Van Helsing needs to have a Dutch accent. One of my favorite portrayals of Van Helsing ever is from the 1977 BBC Dracula, the one with Louis Jordan is the playing the Count. There's some things it's said people laud that as the most faithful to the novel. It's so wonderful. I think because it tries to be so faithful, the novel ends up being kind of boring in places because so many things in the novel are amazing in the novel, but they don't work in a film. But Robert Finlay, if I remember his name correctly, played Van Helsing in that, and he is wonderful. He's so charming. He's got the accent when he's going to try to he's doctoring Miss Lucy there and helping her. You just like him immediately. He is Van Helsing from the novel. He's got the knowledge. He brings it all. He's heroic. He's wonderful. He's really awesome. He's a great Van Helsing. So that's just one more that I'll say about that. All right. One more super chat there. Thank you so much. Matthew Flynn. Well, I'm going to be painting more of my blood angels in preparation for Halloween. Oh, there are 40K characters. Okay. Space Marine vampires. Gotcha. I was like, blood angels. What is that? That's cool. Yeah. You'll have to send in the images there. That's pretty cool. Let's see. I still haven't watched Hotel Transylvania, Andre. I was going to watch it this week with Alyssa. I'm definitely going to watch it this week. We ended up taking her to amusement parks this week, and she was kind of sick at one point too, so the movie didn't get in. But like I said, we're decorating for Halloween this week, so I'm going to watch Hotel Transylvania with Alyssa, and I will give you my thoughts. I promise. I know you bring it up all the time, and I'm looking forward to see it. I didn't know Adam Sandler did the voice of Dracula either, so I know the gist of it. I know like his daughter falls in love with a normie, and so I'll give it a chance. All right. Reading Herodotus. That's, yeah. All the intrigue, cruelty, scheming, and supernatural. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll mention this. I'll speak to the Herodotus comment here in a second, but before I forget, Sound Engraver, streaming tomorrow, 5:45. Going to be talking about art versus modern art. Got some really cool ideas to say. She's been telling me about it, so you definitely want to check her stream out. I think she put the link in the chat, but you can go to her channel there. It should be up 5:45 tomorrow. Check that out. So in the stream on this little point here, talking about Herodotus and whatnot, really to get the most out of literature of the Western world, and the same would be true of literature of the Eastern world if you were going that. But the more you understand about the trajectory of Western civilization and the trajectory of Western culture, the more you're going to get out of the literature of any era. This is not a religious statement at all. It's simply a cultural statement. You have to have a basic understanding of the story of the Bible and of Greek mythology to really get a lot out of classic works like Dracula and so forth, because little works of literature would have so much intertextuality and would reference all these things for so many times. And even if it's not a literal reference in there, that's going to be a figurative, or the image is going to be there or something like that. And on top of the Greek, if you wanted to kind of keep going step by step into it, then yeah, you read the Roman philosophers as well, the Roman historians and stuff like that. These are people to get into as well. Good place to start. Read the Aeneid. Oh, not the Aeneid. Yeah, you could read the Aeneid, but the Iliad and the Odyssey for Greek mythology. Read Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey. Read the Aeneid. You know, that'll get you your good founding, your good grounding in Greek mythology through a story, you know, with all these gods and their abilities and roles and so forth. And yeah, so hats off to you for reading Herodotus. Definitely. All right, like I said, thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. Really appreciate it. Had a blast with everybody. Sorry if I didn't get to read your comment, but again, you know, can only read so many. Really appreciate all the birthday wishes, and yeah, go through Tacitus, Samuel Proctor. Interesting. Yeah. So, thank you guys. I'll be back. I'll cut out some parts of this video for its own video. I still need to talk about the Grand Guignol. We'll do that. We'll talk about that and some of the real extreme horror, where it kind of comes from in today's films. We'll talk about that at least by the next stream, unless I make a set out video for it. So thanks everyone, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue Halloween literature you love. I don't know. I'm riffing there. See ya.